So, Pakistan is facing this absolute storm of crises, right? You've got a collapsing economy on one side, a really scary security situation on the other. Today, we're going to dig into an analysis that's asking a pretty tough question. With all this chaos, who's actually pulling the strings behind the scenes?
And let's just dive right in with this opening line from the analysis we're looking at. It doesn't pull any punches. It argues that the latest political solution being floated around Islamabad isn't a solution at all. It's a sales pitch, a gimmick.
And what exactly is this gimmick? Well, it's this idea that's been gaining a lot of steam lately for something called a national government.
So you have to ask, who's pushing this idea? According to this analysis, it's not really the big mainstream political parties. Instead, it points to what it calls a familiar pattern. You've got people with alleged links to the military establishment, politicians who've jumped ship from Imran Khan's PTI party, and journalists who are seen as being pretty close to the powers that be.
Now, on paper, it sounds pretty reasonable, doesn't it? Form a government of national unity, get everyone talking, release political prisoners. Sounds good. But the analysis immediately asks, is that the real goal here? Or is this just a nice-sounding cover for something else?
And the source immediately throws some cold water on this whole new idea by pointing to the very, very recent past. It asks us to just think back to the PDM government. That's the Pakistan Democratic Movement, which was a coalition that came to power back in 2022. The argument here is that that was also sold to the public as a national government.
And how did that last attempt at a unity government work out? Well, according to this source, it was an absolute catastrophe for the country. It set all the wrong kinds of records for inflation, for unemployment, for national debt. And on top of all that, the analysis alleges it oversaw a huge spike in human rights violations and made the security situation even worse.
Okay, so if the last one was such a disaster, why on earth would anyone push for another one? The source argues it's basically a panic move, a desperate response to a whole series of escalating emergencies that are really pushing the country to the edge.
First up, the economy. The analysis points to this massive flight of capital out of the country, and it gives us this number, 125. That's how many international companies, we're talking big names like Mitsubishi, have reportedly packed up and left Pakistan. And the source is really clear on this. This isn't just a rumor, it's based on official government data.
Next, let's talk security. The source doesn't just say it's bad, it says it's collapsing. It points to this incredibly alarming situation down in Balochistan, where a separatist group, the BLA, has started releasing videos of Pakistani soldiers that it claims to have captured. I mean, this isn't just a threat. For the state, it's deeply embarrassing and a huge blow to morale.
And then, as if that wasn't enough, the analysis brings up a third, really troubling crisis, Pakistan's alleged transformation into a major hub for narcotics. And it starts asking some very pointed questions, beginning with this one. Who is really in control of the border areas where this illegal trade is just booming? You know, the source argues this isn't just a few guys with backpacks. It claims we're talking about thousands of specialist workers, not just laborers, but actual experts in processing narcotics, crossing over from Afghanistan every single day. The question is, how is that even possible without some very high-level, organized complicity?
And that leads to the heart of the whole accusation. The analysis asks the final critical question. Who is protecting the drug factories? Who's making sure the transport routes stay open? The implication is pretty clear. An operation on this scale just couldn't exist without some very powerful people looking the other way, or maybe even helping out.
Now, get this. In the middle of this swamp of economic disaster, security collapse, and a potential narco-state crisis, the source zooms in on a single government decision that it presents as a symbol of just a staggering, breathtaking disconnect from reality.
The provincial government in Punjab has bought a Gulfstream jet, and the analysis makes it clear we are not talking about just any old plane. This is a top-of-the-line, ultra-luxury aircraft. You know, the kind of thing billionaires like Elon Musk fly around in, supposedly kitted out with bedrooms and even massage chairs. So, of course, people wanted to know why they bought it, and the source just systematically dismantles every official justification they gave. First, they said it was for a new airline, but that airline doesn't even exist. Then they claimed, okay, it's an air ambulance, but it has zero medical equipment. Then the story changed again. We'll rent it out, but the cost is millions per hour. Who's going to afford that? And finally, the argument was, well, we spent on the poor, so we can buy a jet. The source's response is simple. That's public money, not your personal piggy bank.
This kind of disconnect isn't just about spending money, though. The analysis argues that it actually extends all the way to foreign policy, where huge decisions are allegedly being made unilaterally by the establishment, completely sidestepping institutions like parliament. The source claims you can see this really clearly in Pakistan's foreign policy. On the issue of Palestine, for example, it alleges the prime minister went to an international forum and didn't even mention the killing of Palestinian children. So why not? Well, the analysis claims the goal is to try and please a potential future Trump administration in the U.S., which is widely seen as Israel's strongest ally.
And this all builds to what is a really incredible claim. The source points to headlines from national newspapers alleging that a secret promise has been made to send thousands of Pakistani troops to Gaza.
It just begs the question, where was the debate in Parliament?
Where was the public discussion about making a military commitment of that size?
But look, the critique here isn't just aimed at the government and the establishment. The analysis also turns a pretty critical eye towards the main opposition, and that's Imran Khan's party, the PTI. The source describes this feeling of deep disappointment and even paralysis inside the party. The argument is that there was this total failure to mobilize, a situation where the elected politicians were basically waiting for the public to rise up, while the public was waiting for their leaders to give the signal. And in the end, according to this analysis, neither side really acted, and a massive opportunity was just lost.
This inaction within the party is then put in sharp contrast with the stated attitude of its leader, Imran Khan, who's still in prison. The source quotes his approach, framing him as the kind of person who, unlike his party, refuses to give in to disappointment and just keeps on fighting.
So in the end, the analysis leaves us with this very stark choice, and it frames it as the same choice the entire country is facing. On one side, you have despair and inaction in the face of all these massive crises. And on the other, you have the call to prepare, to organize, and to resist. The final question it's really asking isn't just about politics. It's about which path Pakistan itself is going to take.